You're watching News Cafe on the Solar News Channel. We're joined by one of the key members of President Aquino's cabinet. She is, of course, Secretary Leila de Lima. Secretary, thanks for joining me tonight.
Hi, Jean. Good evening. Good evening to you and to your televiewers.
Thank you. Let's jump into it. It's a good thing they knew about the Philippines looking for Mr. Amelio.
Oh yes, we've been coordinating with them. Our NBI Interpol has been coordinating with them since few weeks ago. In other words, as soon as the arrest warrants were issued by the RTC, Pagadian City, then we instructed our Interpol office, NBI Interpol office, to coordinate with their counterparts in Malaysia, because the information was that he was in Malaysia. So he was traced in Kota Kinabalu.
Yes.
So this, in other words, Jing, this was just a matter of time, this development.
When he gets here, what's going to happen, Secretary?
Okay, I was talking with Secretary Marrojas earlier, and of course he would be physically brought to the Philippines, and of course to the airport. And at the airport there would be a turnover, a ceremonial turnover, and even the service of the arrest warrant.
Okay.
Because you know, even if we have an arrest warrant, that arrest warrant was issued by a Philippine court.
Correct.
And we cannot just implement an arrest warrant in a foreign soil, because there are mechanisms, like for example this deportation. So we have to do that, you know, so that we comply with the legal process. So there is a ceremonial turnover and a ceremonial service of warrant, and he will be physically turned over to NBI for detention. Dito na muna siya sa NBI, along with the other co-accused. All the other co-accused are already under NBI detention. Ang kulang na lang is Mr. Amelio. Now we will wait for the appropriate court order or the commitment order from the court. The court will decide where to really commit them. The other accused, Jing, who had been in custody by the NBI for a few weeks already, I think their counsels filed a motion with the RTC, Pagadian City, asking for continued detention at the NBI and not at the local jail, citing security reasons, understandably.
Okay.
You know, a lot of the investors who lost their money in that scam are definitely up in arms.
Right.
So they can go to the extent of physically harming this accused, including Mr. Amelio. So hindi ko na pina-oppose sa mga prosecutors namin yung motion na yan na final ng kanilang mga abogado. So we're just waiting for the court ruling on that motion.
So when he arrives, he's going to be detained. How soon before the first appearance in court?
Well, the next step would be arraignment.
Okay.
And tamang-tama lang tong development na to with Mr. Amelio there, because you know you cannot arraign somebody or an accused in absentia.
Right.
So everybody would be, with everybody accounted for, then they can now be arraigned by the court, and then there will be a pre-trial or a pre-hearing or a conference, and then trial will proceed.
How are you? Are you optimistic that this will proceed smoothly and with haste?
I think yes. That's very possible, because in the first place there are complainants. Yeah. Although not all complainants filed complaints with DOJ, with the NBI and with the DOJ, because this is the sort of thing that I think some of the investors are too ashamed to admit that they invested and that they were duped. Okay. For some reason, some of them would not want to be nahihiya sila na nagpaloko sila, because it was supposed to be too good to be true. Yeah. The offer of the high rate of return. Now with complainants around and with enough evidence, we do have very sufficient evidence, not just testimonial, but the paper trail. There are documentary evidence na nakalap ng NBI investigators and the panel of the special panel of investigating prosecutors. Because I precisely created that team to assist the NBI team because of the magnitude of this crime.
Yes.
So I created we created that special panel of investigating prosecutors, assisting the NBI investigators in the gathering of evidence and in the case build-up against the perpetrators.
You have a case already.
We
There's
have
enough
several
evidence.
cases already. Marami pang mga case. Ongoing pa rin ang investigation.
Okay.
Because of thousands of victims. So investigation is still ongoing. Pero may mga nauna na mga complaints, and that's why there had been the filing already of criminal informations in court and warrants of arrest issued.
So far, do you see that he is at the center of this case? Siya ang mastermind?
He is the alleged brains. He is it was according to the complainants and according to the evidence that we have, and even his co-accused, they're all pointing to him. You know, Mr. Amalillo. Ng mga defense nga ng mga co-accused, even sila Mr. Luna, Mr. and Mrs. Luna, ang sinasabi nila, sumusunod lang kami, hindi namin masyadong alam itong scheme na to, hindi akala namin this was legitimate, sumusunod lang kami kay Mr. Amalillo.
On another matter, on the Antimonan shooting, where are we there, Secretary?
Oh yes. NBI is now wrapping up the preparation of its official report.
Okay.
That official report will first be submitted to me, and then I will in turn submit it to the President. Now, as you know, the NBI was designated as the sole investigative body. That is in the criminal aspect of the issue or of the case, because you know that the PNP had just filed administrative charges against their own people.
Correct.
Involved there because of the various violations of the PNP operational guidelines. So that would be with NAPOLCOM, or that would be with their internal processes.
Okay.
The other aspects of the incident, particularly the criminal aspect, that's the one assigned to the NBI. NBI was primarily tasked to get into the bottom of that incident, to determine the naked truth about that incident. What was that? What really happened? Was it a shootout? Was it a rob-out, etc.? But right now, I've already announced that based on the eyewitnesses' accounts, which was confirmed during the reenactment at the incident site itself, and supported by available evidence that NBI has. It's far from being a shootout. It was not a shootout. Now, we were hoping that these men were involved in that incident from the special forces of the AFP and from the PNP, particularly the intelligence unit of the PNP, of that group in the Antimonan police station. We were hoping that one or several of them would surface and then really share with us
What really happened?
what really happened. Now, there are developments in that regard, but we cannot yet disclose that to you. Now, but this I can tell you, Jing, with or without their cooperation, or with or without any corroborative statement or evidence from their side,
Okay.
the NBI is ready to file the appropriate charges.
And the charges are going to be based on the finding that it was not a shootout.
It was not a shootout.
You were there. And what were you thinking? You were there at the reenactment, Secretary. What were your thoughts when you were there, when it was being reenacted?
So unang-unang the first thought that came to my mind was, well, this seems to be an ideal site for an ambush. That particular area. It was, although, well, I'm from Bicol, James, so I normally pass
You know
through
the
that
road,
road.
yeah.
That's the road going to Bicol. But it's really located in an area. By the time that you go down the Bitukang Manok, the
Oo,
Emmy.
dito ka man sa Eme. Oo.
Emmy, National Park.
Yeah.
So that's isolated. Halos yung ilan-ilan lang nakabahayan. And then it was elevated. So that
Perfect ambush place.
perfect ambush place. And then when the reenactment was being done, and the more I was convinced about the credibility of our eyewitnesses, because there were a few other details that they disclosed. They failed to disclose, or they failed to remember probably at the time that they were narrating the incident to us. Before
That they remembered on the spot.
they remember that on the spot. One example was, according to their account, gaano ba kalayo yung truck nyo dun sa mga Montero nung nangyari yung pagpaputok nga. And then ang nakasabi, about 10 meters. Mukhang 10 meters daw yun.
No.
And therefore, the ones who set up the place for reenactment, because when we arrived there for the reenactment, nandun na yung dalawang Montero, nandun na yung a truck.
Yeah.
Although that was not the actual truck
Yeah.
na gamit ng mga eyewitnesses namin. So, naka-arrange na yon, naka-set up na, and that was 10 meters away
Okay.
from the Monteros.
Okay.
And then immediately sabi nung the one witness, ay, mas malapit pa ho kami dito.
Okay.
Sabi namin, akala ko 10 meters.
So that's around 30 feet. No? 10 meters is around 30 feet.
Estimate lang daw niya yung 10 meters. Akala daw niya tama. Kasi you and I, maski tayo, we cannot be very accurate
Correct.
about details like that.
Correct.
We may think it's 5 meters, but actually
Correct.
it's 4 meters or 6
Yeah.
meters. Ganon din nangyayari. Yung mga ganon din. And also about the signage, the checkpoint, the PNP checkpoint signage. During the reenactment, ganun din sinabi. Saka lang nila sinabi,
Mali
"Ay,
yung
ma'am,
position."
yung signage, wala pa ho yan dyan. Nung dumating kami, na kami na muna ang flinag down ng armed men,
Oo.
na mas nauna kasi sila dun sa dalawang Montero.
Aha.
And I think they were just really there at the wrong time, at the wrong place at the wrong time. Although that's providential on the part of the
Correct.
investigators, because
Correct.
otherwise we would not have, wala sana kaming mga eyewitnesses na disinterested or neutral
Correct.
eyewitnesses. They could have, kasi mabagal kasi yung truck, because it's a 10-wheeler truck. So mabagal. Tamang-tama lang when they were just flagged down by these armed men, padating na rin yung dalawang Monteros. Because mabagal sila, mabibilis yung mga
Okay,
Montero.
that's an interesting situation.
Otherwise, kung hindi sila naabutan, nakalampas sila doon.
Correct. Hindi
Sa
na nila nakita.
supposedly second checkpoint na yon. Hindi na nila nakita.
Okay,
Nakalampas sila sa area.
Secretary, we're going to go back
Yeah.
to the discussion. We'll just go into a short break. Justice Secretary Leila de Lima is my guest tonight. You're still watching NEWSCAFE on the Solar News Channel, and we're still joined by Justice Secretary Leila de Lima. Secretary, thanks for joining me again. Let's go back to the discussion. So, your witnesses were at the scene, and when they were there, they were remembering details that they could not have given you during the interview.
Yes.
Simply because they were not in the location.
Simply because they were not in the location. And it is but natural, Jing, even if you and I become a witness for whatever
Right.
incident,
Correct.
it's but natural that there are certain other details you don't easily remember, or something that you would rather withhold first, if you want to withhold first. And in fact, mas nagdududa nga ang mga investigador at ang mga abogado kung very perfect at malinis na malinis ang istorya ng isang witness. A human being is
Correct.
prone to certain
Correct.
mistakes.
Correct.
A human being would have certain inconsistencies. A witness can have minor inconsistencies. For as long as these are not on very, very material or crucial aspects of a story, okay lang yan. It even enhances one's credibility. kung meron kang mga kulang-kulang o meron konting mali sa istorya mo, rather than a perfect account that is more suspicious.
So, what happened? What happened at the scene? Can you tell us the story, Secretary? So, dumadaan lang sila, napadaan lang sila.
Napadaan lang
Wrong
sila. There
place,
was a
wrong
first
time.
checkpoint.
Okay.
And that one is a valid checkpoint
Okay.
because meron daw marked vehicle doon,
Oo.
meron signage, at mga naka-uniforme.
So, tama yung unang checkpoint.
Yung first checkpoint, that was about, I'm not very sure about the distance, maybe about around 300 meters
Before the second
before
checkpoint.
the second so-called checkpoint.
And this first checkpoint was part of the co-plan?
Maybe. Lalabas yan sa
Okay.
lalabas yan sa report.
Kasi pwedeng hindi kasama doon sa co-plan nung second checkpoint.
It's most probably part of it.
It's most probably part of it.
It's
Okay,
most
so first
probably.
checkpoint maayos, and then what happened?
So nakapasok nga dun sa checkpoint na yun yung truck
Oo.
na kung saan nakasakay yung tatlong witnesses namin.
Okay.
Tatlo sila, the driver, a helper,
Helper.
a hinante,
Oo.
and a supervisor.
Okay.
By the way, dun sa tatlo na yun, yung dalawa ang naunang nag-surface, the driver and the helper.
Oo.
The third one, the supervisor, was just the other day.
Yes.
Nung una, hindi pa siya.
Okay.
Sabi niya, nagkonsulta pa daw siya sa pamilya niya, sa pastor niya, and nag-reflection muna siya.
Okay.
Kasi takot nga siya nung una. Now, so, pagdating nila, nung nakalampas na sila sa first checkpoint, pataas yun, meron pang zigzag na portion, and then all of a sudden, they saw this group of armed men at the side of the road.
Okay.
With also around 3 unmarked vehicles also parked at the right side of the road. And then pinara sila, rinag-down sila. Yung iba daw, mga parang nagkukubli-kubli muna doon sa likod ng mga unmarked vehicles. But there was this group already, a combination of uniformed men and in civilian clothes. Then pinapara sila. Pinahinto, pero wala pa silang nakitang signage. Yung isa said, may nakita siya dun sa side, nakaganyan pa.
Okay.
Hindi pa siya nandun sa gitna
Ng road.
And just a few minutes or a few seconds, nung flinag down sila, pinahinto sila nung army na yun, here comes now the two Monteros
Okay.
na nag-overtake
Okay.
sa kanila. And that explains why nasa left side sila of the
Yung
road.
Montero.
Kasi nasa right side yung truck.
Yung truck. Okay.
Nag-overtake sila doon sa truck.
Okay.
And sandaling-sandali lang pag-overtake sa kanila, saka hinarang rin ng ibang uniformed men, in combination din ng mga in civilian. And saka lang linagay yung signage para pangharang sa kanila dun sa two Monteros. Plus this army truck perpendicular na nag-inano para pangharang din dun sa dalawa Montero. And then according to our witnesses, linapitan itong dalawang Montero ng uniform men at meron din naka-civilian.
Okay.
Pinapababa sila. Binubukas yung door at narinig pa nila yung sabi nung isa, I don't know kung isa or basta they were saying, baba, baba. And then no one came down from the two Monteros. Wala, kasi nakalock. So ginaganyan-ganyan nga daw.
Okay.
Pero nakalock. And then all of a sudden, in a split second thing, bigla na lang daw umatras yung mga nagbubukas nung Montero, umatras, and then this guy in civilian gave the order, fire, fire. So where was the shootout? We repeatedly asked these witnesses, and even the third one, yung itong surface pa lang, the supervisor, we repeatedly asked, sigurado kayo, walang nagpaputok, wala kayong narinig na nagpaputok galing sa Montero bago nagbigay ng order yung naka-civilian na yon ng fire. Sigurado po kami. Paulit-ulit po yon.
So walang pumutok from the Montero, from inside, either of the Monteros.
That's according to our witnesses.
Then how was Colonel Marantan wounded?
That is being determined in the course of the investigation. Now, nirinatratan, no? Nirinatratan yung dalawa. And then nung halos parang nakababa na yung firearm nung mga military, we can assume that military naka-uniform, and kasi yung mga naka-civilian daw, mga short firearm lang compared to the rifle ng mga presumably the military. Nung nakababa na, yun ang narinig nila, isang putok from the first Montero. And one of them even said na nakita niya tumalsik daw yung shell
Shell casing.
And so, because of that naman, nagpaputok, nagbigay uli ng order itong naka-civilian na another fire. So fire uli. And that's the time na sabi daw nung isa na uniform guy na doon nagbabantay ng truck nila, may mga ano rin doon, malis na kayo. And so nagpa-atras na the truck. That's when one of them said, nakita niya yung isang naka-uniform and naka-civilian lumapit dun sa dalawang guys sa left side, two guys who managed to get out of the two
Monteros,
vehicles.
yeah.
But they couldn't say kung natamaan na ba at the time.
Oo.
Basta nakagalaw pa sila, nakaalis pa sila sa Montero, dun sa may canal, because there was a canal there. And then this guy na nakataas ang kamay, who later turned out to be Lontok, based on the sketches of the positions or the locations of the bodies when found by Soko, kahit nakaganyan na, at sumisigaw ng parang gano'n, siguro nasaktan na, meron ng tama yun, because he was shouting that, malakas daw. Binaril pa rin by someone in civilian. And that's why Lontok's body was found in the canal, because he was right there at the very side of that canal. Pinaturo namin po yun during the reenactment.
Okay, Secretary, another break. We'll take another short break. Very interesting. You're still watching News Cafe on the Solar News Channel. You're still watching News Cafe on the Solar News Channel, and we're still joined by Secretary Leila de Lima. Secretary, very, very interesting story. So at that point, when the two people went down from the Monteros, again, what happened to them?
Well, one of the witnesses saw that guy with the raised hands, and they were being approached by these two other men, one in uniform and one in civilian clothes. And so even if nakataas na nga yung kamay ng that guy who turned out to be Lontok, ay binaril pa rin daw nung naka-civilian. So natumba na siya, nandun na siya sa kanal. And then there were others. Another guy was found to be, based on the sketches, on the locations, the pictures from the PNP Soko. Aside from the two, Lontok and that other guy, then there was this guy na sa left side ay found nandun na sa
kanal din.
Hindi sa kanal, right beside the Montero.
Okay.
Now, according to the NBI, although they must know that by now, but when I asked them during that reenactment, sino kaya yung tao na yun na nakita rin, na nakaandusay na dun sa baba? Baka daw yun yung isa sa mga nadinala pa sa hospital, because there were two others, right?
Right.
Na kasi yung 11 died on the
Correct.
well, they we thought they all died on the spot, but it turned out nga sila Luntok and that other guy ay hindi pa sila patay nung binaril pa rin sila. No, baka yun yung isa yung dinala pa sa hospital. And there was this guy na I think he was really dead on the spot. Yung sa right side naman ng second Montero at the passenger side ay
nakalabas siya,
patay na kaagad because easily he would be
the first target to be hit by the bullets. No? Was there money at the site, Secretary?
I'm waiting for the report of the NBI. Dun sa mga aspeto na yan, hindi ko pa sila masyadong tinatanong because they said na they are pursuing certain other leads, especially on the aspect of the motive. Now, yung existence of money, inaalam yan, especially so that one as executive, this Mr. Glorioso,
Johnny Glorioso.
Johnny Glorioso
Took a photograph of a red suitcase.
Yeah.
Or a duffel bag.
Yes, meron na rin kaming statement sa kanya. He went to the NBI and then our investigators talked to him and he also executed a sworn statement confirming his story na when he first went there, he was among the very first who was in the area. Nung narinig nila kung ano yung nangyari, he took pictures, pinakita pa niya dun sa iPad niya. Yung mga pictures, there were 2 bags, actually dalawa daw.
Okay.
One red or one black, leather bag, but nowhere to be found in the inventory of the items. I also checked those documents coming from the PNP SOCO, the list, the inventory of the items taken from the incident site. Wala dun sa listahan yung dalawang bags na yon. So,
very many questions. There are more questions that are left unanswered.
There are still a lot of questions, but that is being addressed or that is being pursued by the NBI. Ang pinaka-focus kasi ng isasubmit na report ng NBI ay ang talagang parang makukumpleto nila by the time that they submit the report soon would be the incident itself, what happened there, and then the culpability of those involved. Now there will be some presentation or some mention of the other aspects, like the possible motive behind that incident. How come that incident, assuming it was a legitimate operation as conceptualized, know, the Coplan Armado, it may have been a legitimate operation as devised or as conceptualized.
Right.
But when conducted, it was not. It was conducted in an illegal manner. Then, can you still call it a legitimate operation? And why did it result in such a carnage? I still keep asking, Jing, ano ba talaga yung operation na yon? Assuming those guys were bad guys, assuming they're really part of
gun for hire group,
a gun for hire or huweteng, etc. What was the main objective of that operation? Is it to disarm them, or is it to neutralize them? And to neutralize them in what manner? Did they intend to arrest them during that operations? If so, did they have a warrant of arrest? Obviously, there was not a warrant of arrest. So what was that all about? What were they going to do with those guys? Well, they have all the right probably to flag them down in a legitimate checkpoint. But again, that's a very big, that's a big question now. Was that a legitimate checkpoint? Especially in light of the narration of our witnesses, that it appeared to be an instant or a spot checkpoint. So obviously that's not a valid or a legal checkpoint. So what was that all about? What was that operation all about? For all you know, the Coplan Armado was just really for intelligence gathering.
But it turned out to be a rub out.
But there was an actual operation. Was that contemplated in that COP plan?
So there was a plan on paper, there was a different plan
Excuse me.
in actuality. Does it turn out that way?
Yes.
Well, like I said, raises more questions than answers. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. But Secretary de Lima is staying on for a part 2. So we'll discuss this and you're going to watch it next week. So in the meantime, thank you for joining us for this part 1 of this interview with Secretary Leila de Lima.